Keto Evangelist Kitchen Rockstars. This is just a real quick down and dirty video. I still don't have all the proper video equipment set up yet. So I will be doing a full series of ice cream videos. But in the meantime, I posted one or a couple last week around showing you how to tell when you had churned enough, and so many of you said that they were so helpful to get the visual. So I'm now doing the other bit that seems to cause people problems, which is essentially step 2, which is getting the guar gum into the custard. All of the custards have guar gum. So this is Dirty Hippie ice cream. It's one of my favorites from the Keto Ice Cream Scoop. So Dirty Hippie is, I first had a Dirty Hippie latte in Bishop, California when I was on one of my road trips. And a Dirty Hippie is chai latte with 2 shots of espresso. So that's why it's called a Dirty Hippie, and it's my favorite latte. I'm very, very careful about if I have it out anymore, because I discovered that a lot of the coffee shops use a pre-made chai mix, which is full of sugar. So if you're out and about and you want to order yourself a Dirty Hippie, just make sure to ask whether their chai has any sugar in it. So this is Dirty Hippie ice cream, and I was inspired to make this. I kind of forget all the things in the ice cream scoop that I love, and one of our Unlimited members posted that she had made her first Carrie Brown ice cream and it was Dirty Hippie, and I wish I had what she said about it, because it made me giggle. She was like, this is better than anything you will find in the freezer section of your grocery store, keto or not. So she was really, really excited, and it reminded me of how much I love this ice cream and how happy I was when I first developed it, because I really, really love this flavor. It's also one of the simplest to make. Most of the single flavored ice creams in the Keto Ice Cream Scoop are very, very simple. I developed them the way I did specifically so that they would be super simple. So you wouldn't have to mess around with eggs, so you wouldn't have to mess around with cooking. So they will be super fast, super simple to literally assemble. Some people say that they're overwhelmed when they look at the recipes because they seem so complicated. I could not have made these any, I couldn't have made these any simpler if I tried. But I think the whole process of making really, really, really good ice cream feels complicated when you read about the steps and the timing, but each step is really so simple. So what I have in here, so this is the custard which I've made. So I warmed the milk, the sweetener, and in a pan till the sweetener melted. Brought it just to the boil. As soon as it reached the boil, I switched it off and I added chai tea bags, which have no sugar in, it just has chai mix tea bags. And then I let those steep for an hour. Cover the pan, turn the heat off, and let it steep. After an hour was up, or if you have to leave it for longer, 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it is, pour the milk, the infused milk, through a sieve to remove the tea bags, and then put the chai infused milk back in the pan over a low heat. Then you're going to add to that the other ingredients bar the guar gum. Okay? And you're going to stir it over a very low heat just until everything is dissolved. It doesn't need to boil, it doesn't need to be hot, it just needs to be warm, and everything needs to be dissolved together. So low heat, stir until it's all dissolved, take it off the heat. Then you're going to carefully pour the espresso chai mixture into your blender. It doesn't have to be a Vitamix. I do have another blender too, but I just like my Vitamix for most things. So put it in your blender and we're going to blend for 10 seconds. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to shut up talking because you won't be able to hear me anyway. Okay, now that just makes sure that everything is fully blended. That is all that step is for. Make sure that everything is fully blended. You do need to make sure that this is warm. If you make your custard and then leave it to get cold and then put it in your blender, you're gonna have a problem. And I'll tell you why you're gonna have a problem, because if you blend or whip heavy cream, what are you gonna end up with? You're gonna end up with whipped cream, and or depending how long you blend and how fast you blend, you're gonna end up with butter. That's if the mixture's cold. So if you make the custard in advance, don't put the guar gum in, and then come back to that stage later, you do need to warm this up just so it's warm, because what happens, you can't whip cold cream, because what happens is the fat literally melts, and because the fat globules have, like the fat cells have melted, they cannot hold air, so you can't whip them. So you must, if you leave an extra gap after you've made your custard, that's absolutely fine. But before you put it in the blender to try to add the guar gum, it must be warm, because otherwise you're going to end up with cream or butter. Okay, so it's got to be warm. So I blended it for 10 seconds just to make sure that everything is blended. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then you're going to watch it, but the blender's going to be running, so you won't be able to hear me talk. You're going to turn the blender to the lowest speed. While the blender is running, I'm going to tap the guar gum through the opening in the lid, and you'll see that, and you're going to blend for no more than 30 seconds. Now when I say the lowest speed, it needs to be the speed at which that vortex is just visible. Because you can have some blenders will run so low that almost nothing's moving. You want it to be just enough that that vortex has started and no more. You just want it to draw the guar gum down as you tap it in. Otherwise you're going to get clumpy guar gum. So turn it on its lowest speed, tap the guar through the lid. I'm going to show you that now. So I'm going to take the middle out of my lid. I'm going to put that on. I'm going to set the blender to on low, and then I'm going to tap the guar in, and I'm going to run it for no more than 30 seconds. And I think this is where some of you go wrong. If you end up with what you call gloopy or gooey ice cream, you've blended or stirred it or agitated it for too long after you put the guar gum in. Okay? So, on. That's it. The other thing to note is make sure that you use a teaspoon of guar. Make sure you get the right measure, because if you put a tablespoon in, you are for sure going to have very gooey, gluey, gummy, weird ice cream. So make sure it's teaspoon, not tablespoon. So that's it. That's it. So to recap, we put some ingredients in a pan, brought it to the boil, let them steep for an hour. Some recipes need that, some recipes don't, depends on the recipe, but super simple. Once the custard is steeped for an hour, you remove, in this case, the tea bags. You then add the rest of the ingredients except the guar gum, and you gently heat it just until everything is dissolved together. Then you put your custard in the blender. You blend it for 10 seconds just to make sure that everything's thoroughly blended. You turn the blender to the lowest setting, that you're still just getting that vortex. Then you tap the guar gum while it's blending, just like I showed you. And that's to make sure, that's the guar gum thickens, gels really, really quickly. So this is the best way to make sure that the guar gum is evenly distributed, is with a blender. You put it in that vortex, you're not going to have any worries about the guar gum not being perfectly distributed evenly around your custard. And then don't over blend it or stir it or whip it. Once you've got the guar gum in there, stop, because if you keep on blending it or stirring it, you are going to get gooey, gluey ice cream. And then, this is what I like to use. I use these, or a bale jar, canning jar. And I like to use these because they don't take up a lot of room in the fridge. You can stack them, and you can just open, when it's chilled, you can open, stir, and pour it straight into the churner from here. You don't have to pour it into something else and then pour it in there. You can pour it straight. So this is one of my little tips for avoiding any more washing up than is normal. So then on with the lid, and in the fridge it goes. And tomorrow we will churn. Should be chilled at least overnight because it needs to be really, really, really cold. And that's it. Dirty Hippie ice cream. Enjoy.